All right. Well, welcome to the Stump. This is where I discuss various forestry issues, career and personal development, and really anything else on my mind. I am your host, Matt Comiskey, and today we are joined by Bennett Bull on the Stump. Bennett and his brothers, and let you, when you kind of introduce yourself, maybe you kind of tell us about your brothers. They operate Tree Management Plus, which is a logging company kind of specializing, especially working with small forest landowners. A good and there's, I think, a long history that we'll kind of hear about Tree Management Plus in this show. So, welcome, Bennett. Glad you could join us.
Well, thanks for having me on this, Matt. Yeah, I'm really grateful for you having me on this, and I'm hopefully you guys can hear my story and our family story and our company and what we've been doing for the last 47 years. I'm a third generation tree farmer and contract logger, and I do work with my family. It's a multi-generational company. My grandpa, Tom Fox, started the company in 1977. And through that, my dad and my mother have been able to work in that. And although my parents have gotten a divorce, the company has transitioned a little bit, but it's still a family company. And my brother and I have been working for the last 2 years or so for it, and it's been really awesome. And I love taking part of it.
All right. Well, that's cool. So maybe give us a little background just kind of on yourself because as we were talking before I hit record here, younger folks coming into this profession are not particularly really plentiful, though I'm starting to see few more. But I think just kind of your background, because I think it might help some folks, especially if they're looking at maybe diving into the industry.
So I grew up around the industry. So I mean, I actually have vivid memories of like me being a kid. I mean, just upon walking, I remember delivering raffle tickets and prizes at farm forestry annual banquets, at the Kit Carsons. I mean, that was probably over 15, 20 years ago. I was probably the age of 5. And so through that, I mean, I've really been especially I've been especially exposed to the industry under lenses that like normal people or normal companies might not get to see. I've been able to see reforestation, logging, all stand improvements. And I mean, I grew up around the industry, whether it was taking a day off from school and seeing the Pacific Logging Congress or running errands with dad and grandpa. I mean, I was just able to get some really good exposure at young ages. I mean, I grew up putting protectors on trees, pulling tansy for landowners, rolling type par for rock roads, and all that fun stuff that goes into basically everything that, I mean, we look at as, I mean, we look at as kids just kind of having fun with our parents and having fun with our granddad and grandparents. But now, I mean, you really look at it, it's a part of the operation, and it's really cool that I had that exposure at such a young age.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that really highlights, I think, something that I know I didn't grow up around in the industry. Somehow I kind of fell into it actually in college. But I think that's one thing I've really experienced is how much of a true family it is, whether it's, a family run logging operation or just kind of the bigger industry. We all cross paths in all sorts of different ways. And, yeah, I remember, unfortunately, the Kit Carson isn't there anymore, but that was
Yep.
always the farm forestry and Society of American Foresters and a bunch of other places. And
Just crossing the fingers that you got to win that mini toy chainsaw. I mean, that was me as a child, just hoping I got to win that chainsaw.
and did you ever win it?
I did not. I believe my grandpa and my brother have won it, but we came home with them, but I wasn't myself, unfortunately.
Okay, well, oh well. So that's now you got real ones to play with, right?
Yep, that was my Christmas gift I got the first year I started at the company from my grandpa. It was a big
Yeah.
old 362.
Well, I think, maybe, and I think at some point I really kind of want to get your grandfather on the show too, because, Tom, your grandfather to me has been kind of and sort of an icon in the area and, providing logging services to small forest landowners. And So maybe you can tell us a little bit kind of about your grandfather, and running the business, that kind of stuff, and then we can kind of go in a little bit of what you guys do with Tree Management Plus. And
Yeah. So so my grandpa is Tom Fox, and so he started his company about 47 years ago in 1977 on the corner of a little triangle parking lot in Longview selling Christmas trees. And he did that for about a year or so, and then he was able to come up with some funds to start a reforestation crew. And so he started running some reforestation crews and was doing tree planting for, numerous industries and small landowners, but mostly industry at the time, it seemed like. And so then through that, he was able to kind of keep going and keep going. And he saved to he started with a grapple cat, one grapple cat. And then he's eventually worked and got a shovel and then he got a buncher. And so the company eventually just evolved into a logging company, which is then also we've been taking on since the 90s commercial thinning. And honestly, my grandpa has been quite referenced a few times as the pioneer of cut to length thinning in the area. I mean, we've been doing it since the 90s. We have the same operator. His name's Dan Schmidt. Big shout out to him. He's been with us for 31 or 32 years now, essentially running almost the same machine. And so having that in our back pocket has just been huge. And honestly, our company's evolved, but it's it's because we do everything. We do everything full circle, full cycle. Like from the second the trees are placed in the ground till final harvest, we can do everything in between. From the commercial thinning, pre-commercial thinning, whatever it is. And I think that my grandpa's business model and being able to do that full cycle, I mean, it's hard. It's pretty much, other than industry, I wouldn't say many people get to say that they get to do that. But I would say overall the business model that my grandpa decided with and was able to evolve is something that is crucial in the play on why we're still rolling and still running as a company, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I remember, my career started with working for a large industrial forest landowner that starts with a W, um, and
Oh yeah.
and then contracting for them. But I also, I did some work for small landowners, and then even some oddball stuff for Warehouser, and it. Lots of times, if I needed to find trees for some project or whatever, it was contact Tom at Tree Management Plus
Yeah,
because
that's another thing we do is we do seedling sales and inventory. We have two big coolers, and I mean we do reforestation in house for all of our clients and anyone else that wants us to go and have them tree plant. And we have the capability to store those seedlings, pick them up, and have our own schedule and be able to kind of not have the landowners tell us. I mean, there are times where we have landowners say, "Hey, we're getting our trees and we're dropping them off here at this maple. Be there that day, please." And we
Mhm.
do have those jobs, but for the most part, having the flexibility with our coolers is essential for our business.
Yeah, well, I think that's, you guys fill an interesting niche and unique aspect, particularly, with the way that your family's built in that relationship with the small forest landowners and
Yeah.
stuff, because they don't have to, obviously we have some small forest landowners who are they're very into tree farming, and they know where to go find seedlings and how to hire a contractor to put them in the ground, and handle all of the aspect of it. But I think having a company that can come in for a small landowner and do the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
um, to me is,
Turnkey.
yeah. And because you can do the cut to length thinning and then the final harvest, and then the reforestation, you really can provide that full suite of services to small forest landowners, and they don't have to worry about, well, how do I find a logger, how do I find a reforestation contractor, where do I go buy trees? Oh wait, no, none of the nurseries want to really sell me trees because I'm
Or
not.
you're too late.
Right, or I'm too late. Yeah, it's January and I suddenly remembered I needed trees, and gee, nobody wants to sell me, 5,000 trees. They want to sell me 500,000
Yeah.
trees.
No, we deal with people who want as low as 5 trees to people, yeah, who want thousands of trees. And not all the time we don't necessarily do the reforestation for that, and that's all totally fine. Like part of that business structure is seedling sales, and we do the delivery, we do pickup, we do anything that the landowner requests from us, and we just try to make it work, honestly.
Yeah. So, how about like geographic area? Do you guys, I mean, kind of Western Washington, Northwest Oregon, or you guys kind of go wherever the jobs are? Or what's kind of your travel?
So yeah, it that's been a little bit dependent on, markets obviously, but we've gone as far south in the last year to Prairie, Oregon. So towards Hillsboro and a little bit outside of like east of Portland or west of Portland. But ideally we like working around Southwest Washington, but we also go to Hoquiam and the coast, and we do pre-commercial thinnings and even commercial thinnings up in like Belfair. It's just it depends. We got to make sure that we're in we're in the right geographics to make money as well. As having far and few between, it's like going and checking on the crew and it's 2.5 hours. That's a whole day ordeal for one of us in the office, and just having everything closer. We try to be within about an hour, hour and a half for our sake, but reality is where the work is, we end up going.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much most everybody, especially contractors
Yep.
in the industry. But I think that's well, the making money part of it, of course. I mean, no
It
matter
just
how
has
much
to
you
pencil
enjoy
out.
it, you still got to make money to pay the bills.
You
And
have to pencil out. Like it has to be. We don't want to pay for work essentially, but we love what we do. Don't get me wrong. Like I absolutely love what I do, but I can't pay money to do it. We got to make
right.
something, and
Exactly.
that's where it's just got to pencil out.
So you really kind of need to be sort of a little bit of uh, some ways. I hate the term jack of all trades, but I can't think of anything. It's Friday. It's been a long week.
No, I
So,
agree. I absolutely feel that. Today was a long one.
but you got to be able to understand the financial side of it, be able to make decisions, at least understand enough around the mechanics and that kind of stuff. Fortunately here in the Southwest Washington area we have access to a lot of really good mobile mechanic services, but
Yeah.
still you kind of have to be able to do all of it. And
Yep. And
um
I've been very fortunate to have my friends and surrounding community members that I know and colleagues be able to step in. Like big shout out to Tanner Sturdivant and the Sturdivant family. Like they've been lifesavers for us on patchwork, welding, and all these things that like we don't know how to do necessarily. Yeah, we're trying, and some of our operators do have that, but that takes them off of a machine, and it just prioritization of opportunity costs essentially and maximizing efficiency has been awesome help from everybody in our community. And like yeah, having to learn, like we're twisting wrenches and we're working on the cat, and I replaced the alternator. I had no idea how to do it, but hey, I do now, and it's just kind of learning by going, and kind of learning by doing.
yeah, no, I think that's good and really helps you. Yeah, I guess at one point I remember in my career I was sent out to oversee a contractor putting in a fish pipe, and his first thing he said to me was, "Matt, if you're going to tell me what to do, you're going to know what I'm doing. So go over and get on that cat and get to work." And I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like I never run a cat before, but boy, let me tell you, that was probably the place he could put me. Could do the least bit of damage that day. So,
Yeah, but
yeah,
getting to be able to hop on that and be able to just learn is awesome. And having that hands-on exposure with everything in this industry is, that's how I learn. And that's for me is why, I love this industry so much. It's you're learning by doing, everything's hands-on. Yes, there is number crunching and there's reporting and there's all those accounting aspects of the business and everything that there is paperwork and permitting, but for the most part, it's hands-on out in the field, and that's what I've loved about this industry more than anything.
it's different every day, isn't it?
It is. It's sometimes a little stressful not knowing because I like knowing what I'm doing, but at the same time, I don't have that benefit. Like I wake up and kind of figure out what it is that I'm going to be doing. And I get calls from operators and my employees or my brother, my grandpa, and everything. It's like kind of putting out trash can fires essentially, but that's part of running the business.
Oh, definitely. So what do you think are some of the things for you guys that make a good project? Maybe, if there's like a small forest landowner that, is listening, that maybe they inherited their land at a time when, that's just now coming into a commercial thinning stage, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm assuming you guys can help small forest landowners kind of help figure out what they need to do with their property. They're not all, we all know that there's quite a few of them around here who own hundreds of acres and
Yep.
know their stuff, but there's also, I've run across quite a few that they may have 20 or 40 acres and they're like, I think I need to do something with it. So what do you see as kind of helps make a good project?
So I mean, overall, just having good communication with landowners and having like, hey, what is your objective with this property? Kind of figuring out what they want with it. Is it a recreation? Is it to make money? What is it? And kind of using that to kind of then figure out, okay, well, we offer a free consult. That's part of our company model is we offer free consultation, initial consultations. And so we show up to any job, whether it's 4 or 5 acres, and they're like, "Oh, we have noble fir. We don't really know what to do with it. It's only 5 acres, but can you come take a look?" Like, we'll get out there and recommend either, "Hey, we recommend in the next couple years you either pre-commercial thin or you commercially thin, or you have a final harvest just because it's studded and stunted and it's kind of hitting its end and it's ripe with the alder or anything like that." We were able to kind of recommend and make those kind of site visits. And it depends. Every landowner has a different piece of property, but being able to kind of, yeah, recommend a commercial thinning or a pre-commercial thinning or even a brush cutting around crop trees that we do. Like it's one of those things where we're able to kind of keep the land, we're able to keep the landowners happy. And I'm sorry. I hope that you can edit that out.
Oh,
Whoa.
no. No, that's Bennett, that's what makes this real. That's what
Yeah.
people love. I mean, they want to know the real you, and it's never, perfect. I've had some of these where it's like my brain just completely
Oh
locked
yeah,
up in
and
the middle of a
it is
question.
Friday at
And
6:30 or 7 o'clock now. But essentially, just we can make that recommendation to landowner depending on what the site looks like. And we've had my grandpa has had so much exposure to the industry and so much exposure to so many different stands and different types of soils and everything that plays into it. Where we're kind of able to go there and make a site visit and help a landowner decipher through those things.
yeah. So do you guys work with like any consulting foresters, or do you guys kind of provide that service as well? Because some folks need forest management plans written, though I'd
Yeah.
argue that for counties tax purposes, forest management plans are pretty basic compared to what a landowner really needs to really manage their trees and their forest. But so
Yeah.
do you guys have like, I mean, do you guys provide that service, or do you have consultants you work with? Or
We do both. So we do work with consulting foresters, and I mean, oftentimes having that in our back pocket and being able to work with them is ideal because it alleviates us from having to do some of those things. But yes, we do everything in house, and we recommend we can do management plans and everything in between. And also a big thing that we do is all the permitting and all of the layout for the harvests. And so that we fight the good fight against and all that red tape. And we have the informal conferences and all those meetings with the foresters, ecology, wildlife, fish and wildlife, everything. And I mean, yes, the landowners often take part and they're there, but we are the ones, kind of fighting and communicating on the behalf of them. For example, we did this job where there's a stream. It had one fish blockage at the county road, another barrier that was very steep, rock face. It was not a fish stream, and it cut right through the whole entire unit. And so we went through and we were able to get fish testing provided by the Small Forest Landowners Office of the DNR, prove it's not fish, reapply for a permit for a 4 acre section down to the whole RMZ, and we were able to harvest everything for the landowners. And just like, whereas sometimes it's hard because it feels like you have back against the wall constantly. And I mean, the DNR, they're great to work with, but oftentimes they don't understand the mindsets of small landowners, and trying us being consulting foresters, we fight for them on that behalf. And like you said earlier, some landowners know everything and like have been introduced and even worked for the industry in the past, and they're able to kind of defend themselves pretty well and kind of fight that good fight for themselves. But oftentimes there are landowners that don't know the civil cultural aspects or the environmental aspects that are at play, or all those things in between, and we have to kind of be there for their support. And otherwise, just sometimes the state intervenes and might prevent some of those things, like being able to go down on a stream that has hardly marginal 1.5 foot stream, that no water in it, obvious barriers, and they're telling you it's potentially fish. Like, we'll be able to essentially fight that good fight for the landowners.
Yeah, no, I that is, I think that's a really important service because, forest practice regulations are somewhat, I would argue, complex in this state, and of course, vary by the type of landowner. And the large industrials kind of have one set of rules, and the smalls play mostly by those same rules, but particularly
Yeah.
around stream buffers and stuff. And I know I can't imagine being a small forest landowner wanting to do a harvest, not having any experience in the industry or permitting, and just kind of wanting to throw my hands up. And so having somebody that's willing, they're able to come in and provide that service and help fill out the paperwork. And it feels like those FPAs have gotten longer and longer and longer as I've worked in the industry. So
So yeah, that's one thing that I've been kind of tackling more so. I mean, I've been doing it for the company, is all the permitting, and I've even noticed in the last couple years that they are changing. I mean, there's changes to our maps that like are beneficial, but yeah, for the most part, it takes all of 15 pages to turn in an FPA that is very basic, and then add on an overstock stand template or a fixed width buffer or an alternate plan hardwoods conversion. Like, we're in the 30s, we're in 30 pages sometimes, 33. And like
yeah,
a landowner who's got great exposure might be able to do that. But we've also had landowners who do have good exposure and they try to tackle on these hardwoods conversion projects or such. And eventually they're like, they call uncle and they're like, hey, you, like, we're done. Like, we can't do that. We've tried. Maybe you guys can give it a shot. And then that's where we step in and we maybe change a couple things or bargain a little bit. Like, hey, all the conifers to be retained at 75 foot, and everything in between hardwoods down to 35 we can take. Like, that's reasonable, and we'll brush pile and site prep and do all the reforestation down to 35 feet to where it's a full on conversion. And the DNR, like, it's essentially a bargaining with the DNR or the state. And oftentimes I ran into awesome foresters where they're like, yeah, that makes perfect sense and that works. And there has been some times where you have to kind of get on a little harder, or maybe let go of a little bit more and drop the buffer or whatever it is. But yeah, definitely been able to kind of assist those landowners with those regulations is, I think, what our prime role is as a company.
yeah, no, I would completely agree. And I would imagine too, the one of the unique aspects of it is, well, one, I mean, you're also then going to be the logger that's
Yeah.
operating that permit. Whereas, I've had a few situations where I've kind of had to come in and get a logger out of trouble because they may have been the one who filled out the permit, but they should have hired a consulting forester to actually
Yep.
do it because, didn't fully or maybe understand the rules. But I'd imagine too, with the length of time the business has been around, the fact that you guys operate, and it's a large geographic area, but it's still kind of compact. It gives
Yeah.
you guys the opportunity to build relationships with the regulatory agencies, particularly the forest practice foresters at DNR. So you can build that trust and
Exactly.
you
And
know
being able to kind of have those relationships. I mean, they change. The other thing is they are changing too. You work with somebody, you call that same number, and it's a completely different person. And you're like, whoa, okay, I thought this was gonna be so and so, but I have a few questions about this. And I mean, they're all it's awesome that we have those resources, and I appreciate that. But there are some times where it's not them who are making, they make the end decision, but the decisions between, there's people who are on computers in Olympia that might not understand what's going truly on with this small landowner's property.
yeah, exactly. And folks like your grandfather and Ken Miller and stuff, they have
Yep,
spent a lot of time advocating on the policy side of things. And the one fortunate thing though is that for a whole nother conversation, at least the turnover at DNR is not like I deal with at the Forest Service, where
that is true.
look, it
Yeah,
may
that
be
is true.
3 weeks and somebody's changed positions already when I deal with the Forest Service. So
Yeah, no, I mean I have been able to in the last couple of years it hasn't been as bad, but through being able to talk with my grandpa in the past, it's definitely known that hey, these are not permanent positions and roles. They are definitely a revolving door.
yeah, oh definitely. So what do you see kind of as challenges for the broader logging sector, kind of from your perspective, and more importantly, what kind of opportunities?
So, I mean, I have faith in the industry, and I mean, it sounds like and it feels like the momentum is even starting right now. I mean, I can feel it. I see it with markets. I see it with landowners. I mean, our office gets more phone calls, and there's more generation of business going on right now for sure than there was the last 6 months. So, I mean, I feel faith right now, and having the markets play a giant role into our company is basically we're at the landowners and harvest managers and industrial landowners mercy. We don't get to choose. In all of our contracts we shall jointly agree upon harvest timing with landowner, and so we wait for them to say, hey, like, yes, we propose markets, but oftentimes we're still at their mercy to say yes or no. And so having markets down definitely doesn't help with that. And having to explain landowners that the markets are not at an all-time low, but they're lower than they were 2 years ago. And we're hoping for them to raise in the future and keep going up. But we don't know that. There's no guarantee to anything. So having that has been kind of kept us going because there's landowners who want to do it for the silvicultural and health of their forests. And that's kind of what is our bread and butter, is keeping in mind, hey, it's sometimes a service and a silvicultural service for your stand. And for example, commercial thinning has been a really hard market with the shortwood. And I hope that the mills are able to adapt and take better, I mean, inventory of their shortwood and buy it more accordingly. But ultimately, like, there's a social license to thin, but there's not a market of, like, there's a market efficiency behind that that's preventing us from being able to thin. When we can't make money or when we can't produce something for the landowner, it often chokeholds us. And someone's up. And oftentimes having that, the down markets, is what slows us down. But having faith that the markets are going to move up and having most of those challenges end up kind of phasing away with good markets.
Yeah, I think that whole marketing side of it is something that's always a challenge to help people understand. I mean, I was at a meeting last week down in Vancouver that your dad was there.
Oh yeah.
And the whole conversation was about small logs and financial viability of dealing with small logs. And I think that is something. The goal of that meeting, those presentations, was to kind of help people figure out just the definition of what is a small log. And I'm pretty sure, based on some of the comments throughout the rest of the meeting, that there's still a lot of people that don't really know what a small diameter log is. So
Yeah. Uh,
It's
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, s- it's unfortunate that our cut to length machinery we've been able to kind of utilize on both sides actually. And so having that, we've cut clear cuts and been able to have we have two shovels, so we split them up and we end up kind of running two clear cut sides essentially. And that's how we've kept busy for the last couple months and slow markets with the shortwood. But there are times that like, hey, we get a call from the company that starts with a W, and they want to pay us 85 a ton or 90 a ton for the short wood and or the ton wood. And so at that point, it's like, all right, they do want it. It's just market driven on when and having those good markets and wanting that inventory is always something that has driven the short log market.
yeah, I think, and particularly right now, lumber is down, which
Yeah.
is just beyond me because we're still importing as a nation about 30% of our softwood lumber, even though we have acres and acres of it right out the back door. But yeah, I think, hopefully as, things work its way through the process, we'll see some of the lumber markets come back. And that's always a challenge. The mills who, my day job is to, you know, advocate for the mills on supply, but of course they always like really long logs because then
Yep.
you get the overrun, and short logs not so much overrun. Plus, you just gotta have so many more of them because the throughput these days is so fast. But yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a lot of opportunities. I see a lot of things coming down the path for doing more and more with wood and
Oh yeah, that's another thing for sure is that like the utilization of wood in different aspects has been really cool. Like whether it's biochar or any of that, like has been really cool to kind of be exposed to.
Yeah, I mean, you got the biochar. We've got maybe two industrial sized
Pellet.
pellet plants coming, which I know that should hopefully make life a little bit easier for all of us in the industry. Because right now, this is what October 25th. So
Yeah.
getting rid of sawdust is not always the easiest thing right now for a lot of operations. And fortunately, you don't have to worry about getting rid of sawdust, but
Yeah.
um, you're on the end of providing that raw material going in that's going to create some of that sawdust. So definitely a challenging and interesting time in the market, but I've been in the industry long enough to see the ups and downs. And fortunately, that's the one thing I think of most people always keep in their head, that, you know, there may be downs, but they fortunately always do tend to come back.
Yep.
And I think we as humans, when it comes to the economic side of any business, we always remember the really good days. So,
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is I joined the company actually in like 2022, right? Like when the market was at pretty much peak, 65 a ton for pulp. I mean, more than what we're getting paid for short saw logs
mhm.
currently. And I mean, it was through the roof. The market was through the roof. And then about 6 months, a year later, we were on the back half of that where the market was pretty much at an ultimate low and couldn't sell pulp. There was nowhere you could even get it off the landing. We were running on it everywhere with our cut to length, but paying essentially to get it off on our clear cut sides. And so that was really tough. And we've been able to kind of keep that up, down, bounce back with the markets. But for sure, having landowners kind of realize that, hey, like even though it's not great right now and it will get better, you never really know. And so having that kind of play is kind of been what drives us as a company is keeping us alive is we have to log, we have to keep going commercially thinning no matter what the market is and having some key landowners acknowledge that and be able to do it as like a service and the health of their forests has really been crucial into keeping us as a company alive.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's an important thing, especially, on the small landowner side that may not be, really experienced in forestry and that kind of stuff, is understanding that a lot of times, your commercial thinning may not be, you
Too
might be
lucrative.
just hoping to make money, that
Yep.
it really is more of a, kind of like in going out and thinning the carrots in your garden. And,
Yep.
you lots of times you pull up carrots that aren't big enough to eat. So, but you still need to thin them and pull them out in order to get what you really want at the end. So,
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we've been able to kind of adapt and we take some price hits or we make things work for landowners, but there are times where, yeah, like you said, there we're just hoping to break even for the landowner and they know that. And there are times where landowners make money on commercial thinnings, but ultimately just knowing that, hey, like we have this contract, I mean, we were not trying to do anything. We're essentially, uh, we want to always make sure we're doing right by the landowner,
right.
and we would
Yeah.
never recommend anything in ill intent, but essentially we do have to keep running as a business, and keeping operations going day by day is how we stay afloat.
Oh yeah. No, I mean that's that's part of the whole thing. And a lot of these landowners, they need to make sure that you guys are going to be there, next
Yeah.
year, maybe 5 years down the road, because they're still going to need that work. That is the one thing about forestry. It is a long-term activity. It's not something you just do and think, oh well, I'm going to do this, this spring, and
And
I'm going to go do
that is
something
kind of
completely different in the middle of the summer, as far as, I'm going to go tend my corn or something, it's like you need
mhm.
you need people to be around and keep doing this work over the long run. So,
And that is the other thing that kind of plays into it is small land. We work for small landowners, and oftentimes there is their one final harvest. They have been able to cultivate and work for 30 or 40 years with the stand and be able to, I mean, hopefully have our assistance with it throughout the process. But essentially, when final harvest comes, a lot of these final harvests for small landowners are their one and only for their entire lifetime. And so it's something where we kind of like making it personal and being almost kind of a part of a family by the end of it because like we realized that and being able to take a part and be able to work with small landowners in that capacity has just been awesome.
yeah, no, I think that that's really important. And I just was trying to look something up here really quick. Um, yeah, because I know that the Washington Tree Farm Association or Washington Tree Farm program, and then also the Washington State SAF calendar is coming out soon. And gee, the big ad near the top of the page is Tree Management Plus, and the
Oh,
stump is
really?
right at the bottom of the page. So it's a good advertising looking page. Some good operators on that
Right on. We
page.
do
So
try to keep our advertising in all sorts of different Timber West, Northwest Woodlands, all those kinds of magazines for sure. I mean, we're we are pretty known. I mean, around farm forestry and everything. Like people know who we are, but there are times that like people often like, oh, Tree Management Plus. I didn't know you guys were still going, or like we were kind of forgotten. I mean, that's just kind of part of being an old company and having so many other companies like around us come and go. And it is a competitive market, but by no means do we want to be cutthroat or anything like that. Like we're trying to work with other companies and contractors. And hey, like if you if you got some commercial thinning, wow, this thing is going off like crazy. There we go. If you got some commercial, like we have some contractors who don't do commercial thinnings with cut to length machines, and they're like, "Hey, you got a landowner? You guys want to do like?" We step in and we work with other contractors. We would rather have it that way, or we're calling other contract. We don't have trucks in house, so we're calling other contractors to, "Hey, you got trucks?" I mean, we're trying to work with them, and I think that's another part of it is that as much as it feels cutthroat it's not. This industry is about working together with your community and having like as many resources as possible.
yeah, that actually is a really
Oh,
a
I think
really
something
good
happened.
point, and I think what keeps me really energized, because policy type work I do during my day job makes me want to just beat my head against the wall sometimes. But you know it is, I think, that family aspect. A lot of the folks that I deal with, yeah, at the bidding table, they may, beat each other up over trying to, bid on a particular timber sale or, whatever job or whatever. But at the same time, when it comes to advocating for the industry. I've seen one log buyer advocating for another company's log buyer, in a
Yeah.
situation because that other company couldn't be there. And I think that family, stick together, help people out aspect of it, I think is one of the key parts to, the industry succeeding and keeping going. Cause it's not an easy industry to be in, that's for sure.
No, I think if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Like that's the reality is there is there's numerous contractors, but I think there's less than what people think. There are not all that many loggers in the state of Washington, and honestly, there's less and less every year.
Yep. Oh, definitely. So, well, hey, this has been fun. I think that at some point we need to get you, maybe get your brother on. It'd actually be kind of fun to see if we could get set up. I think it'd be fun to do a three generation
Would
podcast. Have your dad, your grandfather. I always loved, still love getting the chance to talk to Tom. And I mean, he is, like I said, an icon in the industry around here. And
yeah.
it's uh it's great to see him being able to pass on what he's built to the next generations. And I think that that's really pretty cool. And you have any interest in getting into the policy stuff like he was kind of getting
Yeah.
into?
So I studied political economics at University of Washington. So these market and regulations and how policies essentially affect the markets is what I studied. And so having that in my back pocket also and being able to use the knowledge that I gain and retain from my grandpa informally basically has been awesome. And I mean, yes, it's always about learning more and kind of figuring out day by day, but being able to kind of have those both, the informal and the formal education has been awesome. And my grandma, she's passed away now, but she was a lobbyist for the farm forestry. And she actually was a key player in the FREP, the Forest Riparian Easement Program, and starting that, and my grandpa as well. But now that that's been even more evolved upon and actually just got a boost to 90%, uh, I think that I would love to kind of involve myself even more in policies. And yeah, it's not directly related to business and might not produce revenue, but having that involvement and I think overall enjoyment in the industry would be fun.
Yeah. Well,
And it's
def-
already kind of what I do is speaking or fighting for the small landowners' behalf, anyways, and kind of just doing that on a higher level, I think would be really fun.
yeah, no, I think you definitely have a future of being engaged in the policy side of things in your future of where I see the industry going and the various things going on. And so, but yeah, so I think this has been a lot of fun. Anything else you want to add or cover that we didn't get to?
I mean, I would say that I'm really thankful for the industry and it providing for my family for three generations and hopefully more to come. I mean, I look forward to the day that I mean I get to bring my kids into the industry and have them come along, and whether it's the tree planting crew or whatever it is. And I mean, all the great landowners that we get to work for, and I mean, just being able to take part of a family industry like you were saying. And I mean, I've been a part of it since I opened my eyes as a newborn, and since I can remember, I've been involved with farm forestry and the a tight community there. And I mean, it's crazy to say that. I mean, I wasn't initially thinking I might work at this company immediately, but I always wanted to eventually. I just wanted to bring more to the table. But
Mm-hmm.
I just say that for anybody out there who is looking into the industry, I mean, feel free to give me a call, whether it's you want to come play on our simulator or come see an active logging job or even just the tree planting crew. I mean, I love bringing exposure to the industry, and I think having that uh, capability to do so is awesome and put the light on whatever someone wants to see or be exposed to.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for joining me today. And I think this has been great. Like I said, I look forward to, I kind of like the idea of trying to get, people back on,
Yeah.
to kind of talk about latest things, and who knows, maybe even there'll be some policy stuff we can discuss next time. And I think,
Sounds
and
good.
I really do want to explore the idea of getting all three
A round
generations on a
table.
call, because
Yep.
that would be a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
but so, well, great. Thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to future conversations.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.